What's up, y'all? Just driving to school right now. The sun is just now starting to come up. Yeah, I thought I would just do a live and just ramble and stutter and just be here for whoever wants to be on. If anybody wants to be on, otherwise it'll be in my videos as always. Yeah, so the last 3 weeks I've missed a lot of school, but you know, when your when your school when your professors are pretty chill, they're just like, yeah, it's fine, just keep doing the work. Um, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll know that I converted to Judaism or started converting to Judaism last year, and so I'm almost 2 years into converting. And so the last 3 weeks has been basically just holidays after holiday. It's been holiday after holiday. We had Rosh Hashanah or Rosh Hashanah, um, the Jewish New Year. Welcome to the year 5785. Um, then the week after that was Yom HaKippurim or Yom Kippur. Um, and then this last weekend was Sukkot. So yeah, it basically stayed home for 3 weeks straight. I did have to go in and do some. I had to go and take a test, and then I had another meeting, and then of course, on Sundays after Shabbat is over, I would do my homework like normal. But I mean, that's part of the normal me routine anyway. Um, we're starting a new unit in my language course. Not really sure what the unit is going to be, but I think it's going to be about like uh, speaking differences. Like, for example, this week he's giving us a bunch of articles and a movie by a linguistic anthropologist who studies basically the difference in speech patterns and speech meaning between men and women. Excuse me. I think from what I've watched of her of her studies, what I've seen of her presentations, and what I've read of them so far, I will say that I kind of find that there's maybe I don't want to say a prejudice, but perhaps a bias in her studies. Um, that see, it's hard to it's hard to word it because in society generally women are taught to be seen, not heard. In public places, usually the husband will speak more than he does at home, where at home the wife will speak more than she does in public places. And that tends to be true across pretty much all cultures, at least according to, uh, um, excuse me, I forget what her name is now. Deborah, Denise, something like that. Uh, Very charismatic professor, by the way. Not my professor, of course. She works across the country from where I'm at. But yeah, I think that because of that societal stigma that women should be seen, not heard, that a woman's voice is less valuable than a man's voice, I think that inherently that has to be true to some degree. Within her studies, it has to be observed and recognized. You know what I mean? It would be a disservice to study a phenomenon and not record the observations that you're finding. It would be nonsensical. It would be a disservice to your study, and truthfully I would count that as a flaw because a lot of good communications on a lot of really good points will always have a concessions part. And in a concession, it's when the author concedes that, yes, this might be true here, this might be true there, but is it always true? And of course, the professor that my professor is having us study right now, she's very good about upfront saying this is not to make a hasty generalization about men and women, society, nothing like that. She's very, very clear about that. She does concede, like, yes, this information could be taken this way. It is not supposed to be taken this way. And I think any good author, any good scientist would always lead or concede those points. I know, unless I'm specifically told not to do that, I will always at least give a paragraph. Excuse me, I will always give at least a paragraph in my writing um, that acknowledges how what I'm saying could be misconstrued or construed in a way that is different than the intended message that I'm putting out there. Um, in my law class, we took an exam a couple of weeks ago. It was my first in person handwritten essay that I've ever taken in college. Like, the exam itself was an entirely handwritten essay. There was no multiple choice, there was no true false, there was no argue this point. It was basically the topic was um, gender affirming care for youth is going to be ruled upon by the Supreme Court in the coming term. What legal precedents are there in support of or not in support of gender affirming care? What is the court's tradition and history on topics like this? And what do I think? The main portion of the essay was, what do I think it should be, how do I think it should be ruled, and why? Um, of course, gender affirming care is a blanket statement for so many things: hair transplants, eyebrow tattoos and replacement, or uh, veneers, jaw fillers, cheek fillers, lip fillers, breast augmentations and reductions, uh, BBLs, facelifts. Those are all examples of gender affirming care that do not that do not revolve around transitioning, right? And so, of course, transitioning is the main focus of the SCOTUS case, and I think that that does a major disservice to trans persons, which again are one make up 1% or less of any given country and the world. So we're talking about very few people here in reality that would even seek out gender affirming care for transitioning. Again, uh, hair replacement, hair transplants, gender affirming care, like 100%. You can get your beards, your eyebrows, your hair, like the hair on your head. You can get all those done, transplanted, and that's not transitioning, right? That's just affirming how you feel in your body, right? And that's all gender affirming care is confirming and affirming how one feels in one's body. That's it. It's that simple. It's not this blown up hot topic like politicians and the news would make you think it is. Nobody's going to school, nobody's dropping their child off at school and then bringing home their child as a different, sex or gender. That's just not happening. One, schools can't even hardly teach a lesson that they want to teach that is more applicable to real life than what the standards say. Teachers can't even get freaking students to stop talking for 10 minutes. So how are they supposed to, transition your kids? I mean, I saw a post earlier today on Twitter that if you drop off your child at school and come back and pick up a child of a different gender or sex, bring the kid back. It's not your kid. It's somebody else's kid. because it's really just that simple. Um, but that goes hand in hand with like the Uber theme of what we're learning in my women in law class, which is right now reproductive and bodily autonomy rights. Um, and of course, those absolutely are, excuse me, those are absolutely quintessential to discussing gender affirming care and trans rights. There is, um, let's see, what is I think right now, the assignment that we just did for law, it was talking about, oh yes, how did we get to Roe v. Wade? Is Roe v. Wade actually as solid of an argument or case as, the pro-choice sect of society is thinking that it is? Are there weak arguments? Are we still fully in Roe? Has Roe slowly been repealed before the 2022, Dobbs decision? Um, and it's essentially, yeah, like Dobbs was coming pretty much for at least 30 years. Uh, because in the 1990s, there was, the first conservative majority was on the bench since Roe. Uh, they tackled some issues. They tended they The thing with these kinds of rights is that the Supreme Court historically and continually will make a profound ruling on a case, such as a landmark ruling like Roe v. Wade, where it grants women the right to an abortion. That's not the terminology that I used in my paper, but basically that's what it is. Does a woman have the constitutional right to an abortion, or similar healthcare needs? Uh, that has slowly over the last 33 years been going back to the states. Things tend to, after these landmark cases, uh, these blanket rulings, even if they have caveat listed, and nuances, they tend to slowly repeal and refine these rights as states' rights rather than individual rights. And so, slowly but surely, states have started implementing, since 1991, states have started implementing uh, curtails, curvatures, curfews, deadlines, uh, all those kinds of things on pregnancy. Because while the Supreme Court still recognizes a woman's constitutional right to an abortion, I'm going to say that has not changed. The right to receive an abortion is now back at the state level, which means states, even though a woman has a constitutional right to receive, you know, reproductive care, or if that even includes an abortion, that states can limit how, when, what the process is, who can get it, where they can get it, if those programs and facilities can be funded, all of those kinds of things. So basically, it's like, yeah, you have this right, but as long as you do it within these confines. Excuse me. And that's pretty much always the case with SCOTUS rulings. This guy is just driving in both lanes. Anyway, I hope they get pulled over. Because they're driving in the fast lane, going like 60 and driving, but they're also driving in, the third lane or the second lane. So I've been trying to make a video, but I really just have not had the time. I've really been trying to refine this platform. What do I want it to be? What do I think the most honest to myself uh, form of production is going to be? Um, I like that I can do these lives now, even if nobody watches. My lives are still on there. People can watch them later, and the information in it, like hello, it's all information. I'm full of information. I'm full of thoughts and opinions, and I don't really get to share those much. So that's what this platform is for. My podcast letter chips, I'm putting that on the back burner for now. I'm just gonna store it away for a rainy day. It wasn't so much a hit. I mean, it got nearly 50 views across the platforms. Um, I think that I'm going to change my podcast to be something different. I think it's going to be, I think I'm going to change it to, I mean, I know what I'm going to call it, but the platform will be language learning and politics, because I think that it's important that people understand that the language you use affects the way you learn, and the way you learn is affected by politics, which means that the language that you learn, or languages that you learn, or that you read or encounter, are also affected by politics, because when you read or you speak or you converse, you're learning. And everything about every part of human society today is controlled by politics, right? So I will be starting a new podcast. It'll be Lingo Gringo's Language Learning and Politics podcast. I'm not sure if we're going to do anything sort of, you know, um, fun or funny with the name. It might just be like HLGLLP, not that it's an LLP, but language learning politics, the first letters of each of those. Um, yeah, like for example, if we wanted to talk about Spanish, the reason that when you go outside, pretty much in every state in America, you hear Spanish is because most of America was taken by the Spanish. Louisiana, Florida. I'm sorry, I keep having connection problems and I don't know why. But yeah, so like Florida, Louisiana, the West Coast, pretty much all the way up through Washington, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. That whole region, those whole regions were conquered by Spain. So in reality, Spanish is so heavily spoken in America because it was more or less the first European language to reach America, right? And so there's the language aspect. The learning aspect is why is Spanish so heavily, you know, why is it so prominent in American school systems? Well, that's because outside of English, Spanish is the next most spoken language in the Western Hemisphere. Most of the countries in the Western Hemisphere speak Spanish, right? I mean, from the tip of South America there to the top of North America, you pretty much got like the main European languages. That is, you've got pretty much only got Spanish and English and Portuguese because of Brazil, which Portuguese is like extremely similar to Spanish. I've been having like no problem reading it lately, so that's fun. Um, in Let's see, what else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, and who decides what languages are going to be available? The local politicians, the state politicians, right? So, for example, At my high school, when I was there, we had like 8 Spanish teachers. We had one Italian teacher, we had one Japanese teacher, and we had one French teacher. The French teacher left after she had a baby, and so for I think about a year, there was only Italian, Japanese, and Spanish. And so pretty much everybody either had Spanish or Japanese. There were very few people that actually took Italian, but a lot of the people that were in there were placed in there because there just wasn't room in the Spanish classes. Uh, Funnily enough, most of the kids that went and learned Spanish don't speak it, didn't learn it, but most of the kids that took Japanese, there were also 2 different teachers at 2 different times. Most of the teachers that students that took Japanese, they ended up leaving high school with a very solid understanding of Japanese and the ability to speak. Um, let's see. So yeah, so that's what I think I'm going to talk about more on my podcast. Of course, it'll be much lengthier. It won't just be language learning and politics. Uh, I'm really going to try and get a political science professor to co-host with me. Um, it is difficult because professors are very busy, especially granted the one that I'm trying for right now, she's an adjunct professor, so she works kind of like here and there. She's a part-time professor is basically how to look at that. uh, but I haven't had like a real chance to sit down and talk to her about it. So yeah, that should be coming soon, with or without a co-host. um, So Mondays, I will start making a quick little, like, I'll do a math problem in English or Spanish, or I'll help you understand, subject verb agreement and an essay, or something like that. Basically real real simple. I'm thinking about calling it Mentorlingual Monday and get rid of the Multilingual Monday, because multilingual Mondays are they're very difficult to make. Uh, Tuesdays, I would like to do a Substack on called Tutor Tuesdays or Tutor Me Tuesdays, but the thing with that is if I do that, then do I need to put that in with my podcast and talk about it more? Do I leave it out of my podcast? If I write a Substack, does it need to be long? Does it need to be simple? You know what I mean? Wednesdays, starting probably next Wednesday, excuse me, I will probably be continuing my Substack paid. You'll see the Lingo's meditations. So for how that's going to work is the first essay in the theme, in each theme will be free. And if you want to continue to read more on that theme, you'll have to pay for each Substack article. Just go onto my Substack, lingogringo.substack.com, find what you're looking for, pay for it, print, pay for it. It's that simple. I'm going to. I think I did it myself a disservice in the last one by just saying that Google is free. Feel free to fact check me. I should have, of course, outside of the Declaration of Independence, the articles, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. Of course, those speak for themselves as sources. Those are primary sources. Those are foundational sources. Those speak for themselves. Anything that I say that those say, you can look up in the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, or the Bill of Rights. um, let's see. What was I going to say? But yeah, so Wednesdays, start looking for more of the paid Lingo's meditations. It should always start off with the word on. Lingo's meditations on blah blah blah, right? So like the thread is Lingo's meditations, and then each title will be on something, like Lingo's meditations on, you know, civil rights, or Lingo's meditations on accessibility, or Lingo's meditations on grading, or things like that. Um, for Thursdays, I don't have it in my Substack welcome post where I have the content schedule, but I thought it would be fun to do something to do a little uh, like a thought throttler Thursday where I introduce a philosophical idea. Like, for example, one this week's will probably be: is it possible to be a good person but not a nice person? And is it possible to be a nice person but not be a good person? That's a thought throttler, and it'll be open for email responses. Of course, all my emails always open. lingogringo@gmail.com, always open. Responses in the comments, video responses, things like that. So yeah, look out for those. I have a few of those planned already. And then Fridays, I want to do flashcard Fridays. And I'm kind of just thinking I might just actually make like a stack of flashcards, and then it'll be like 10 flashcards each week. It'll have a theme. Um, and then on Fridays, we'll just go over those. We'll spell them out. We'll look at the translation, because the translations, because I'll be doing it in 3 languages: English to Spanish to Hebrew. um, Saturdays, we'll still get the occasional vlog video. I don't I don't really think I'll be doing anything on Sundays except for just my regular Substack Sunday. The Substack Sundays, those will be my language learning and politics Substacks. So what we talk about on there will probably be the topic for the following week podcast. Uh, and of course, this is not necessarily going to be consistent because I have school. My school is almost 2 hours away from where I live. So for 8 hours a week, I'm driving just like I'm doing right now. Um, yeah, I don't really have much else to say on that. Oh, and of course, Sundays for me are the beginning of the week. It's the first day of the week. That's how I look at it. So, if something comes out on a Sunday, expect more of it for the next until the next Sunday. So Sunday through Saturday is the week that I do. Saturdays I tend not to actually go out and make things. I tend to just take the day off because Shabbat, and everybody deserves a day off no matter what. Because yeah, you deserve a day off. I think I might start doing more lives on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings before class, and I'll just, you know, maybe we'll answer some math questions, or we'll do some Spanish, just random one off things, whatever is on my mind. Um, so, things like that. I'm trying to think what I might do today. It is also hard to do this because, excuse me, my phone holder in the car is connected to the vent, but the one that I have for when I'm recording videos, it's just a giant clip. So like you clip it onto something, and then it has like these bendable wires and a phone holder and a ring light. And I just don't have those kinds of the things that I need to use one of those. Like I think like a selfie stick would be nice, but then at the same time you have to walk around this big old awkward selfie stick, and it's just like you know, uh, um, let's see. Sun found me. What if I started doing like ASMR? Like, what if I started whispering like this, and then all of a sudden my videos are like this, and I'm just talking like this, and then I can just tell you the new words that we're learning this week are words in the kitchen. I don't know. Might try that. I have microphones. They're here. They're right here. So I might try that. TBH, I probably should have put one on. Didn't think about it. Yeah. So also, if you are interested in looking for a personal tutor, I am still available for that. I have outside of the school availability, I have pretty much open availability. You can find me on helingogringo.youcanbook.me. Pick whatever time works. It'll send an automatic notification to my phone. I will know that you booked it. I will also get an email notification from the website. Uh, if anything's going on with the website and somebody is trying to book me and it won't let you, just let me know. Email me, helingogringo@gmail.com. We'll get you set up that way too. I do tutor essentially every subject, math all the way through lower division college, kindergarten through lower division college. I do all anthropology, biology, archaeology, history, um, paleoanthropology, evolution, evolutionary anthropology, uh, cultural anthropology is my major. I already have a degree focused on that from my community college. English, English reading, writing, spelling, grammar. I got you. Spanish, I got you. Same thing. Spanish reading, writing, grammar, speaking, practicing. I can do language coaching because the idea behind language coaching is to not necessarily to speak with somebody in their target language, but to help them to learn their target languages better. And I think we all, even those of us who have been learning languages for years, I think we all still continue to find that sometimes something's not working quite right. And so all of a sudden, boom, it clicks. Wow, I could do this better, or I could do this differently, and it would be so much easier to learn this language. Um, we all have those moments, not even just with language, but yeah, language coaching is in my head, it's to make sure that somebody is approaching learning a new language more confidently, more forcefully, more intentionally, and of course, only within the confines of their end goal. Do they only want to speak it? They don't care about reading and writing. Do they want to read, write, and speak? Do they want to just converse? Do they want to just watch movies, read newspapers, and not speak? Um, and I definitely can do those things. For example, I've been finding myself drawn to Italian a lot more lately. It is taking away from my Hebrew, but it is what it is. It's not bad to take a break from your main target languages. Uh, there's a show on Netflix called Deceitful Love, and it just came out recently, like this year, within the last couple of weeks. And I did not realize it was in Italian, and I started watching it, and I was noticing, I was like, so what they're saying is so similar to Spanish, but the English translations are so loose. I don't like what they're saying because, of course, like there are things in Italian that will be identical in Spanish. They're just Romance languages. They share what, like 85% vocabulary or something like that. So like there are gonna be identical things between the languages, and some of those things I was listening and I was like, okay, but the English subtitles were not saying that message, and I thought that that was incredible in the worst way, because were people who were watching it, dubbed in English, were they getting the same story? Were they still getting the same cultural dynamic as somebody watching it in Italian? And personally, I don't think so. I think that in this case, Italian is a Romance language, and a lot of people find Italian to be very attractive, very sexy, uh, very romantic itself. And the English translations just were not giving that. So while the audio was in Italian from the beginning, I ended up switching the captions to Italian also. I had zero problem. I put on episode 1, and I did not turn it off until episode 6 was over. It was so good. And then I think with the Italian subtitles, I was able to get that cultural, I was able to watch it in a from a perspective of culture of cultural relativity, but more appropriately linguistic relativity, because in this show, what they were saying was essential to the progress of the show, not just the actions. In this show, I think the dialogue and the actions went, toe for toe on importance, where typically in a movie or a show, action is what's driving the plot, not the dialogue. But yeah, very good show. It's got Giacomo uh, Gianniotti. I don't remember his last name, but he played Andrew DeLuca in Grey's Anatomy. Um, I find myself tending to watch, Netflix and other kinds of series not in English. I couldn't tell you how many shows and movies I've watched in Spanish. One of the best shows I've ever watched was Quien Mató a Sara, Who Killed Sarah. Whoa, what a good show. 3 seasons. It didn't need 3 seasons, I don't think, but I'm glad that it had 3 seasons. I mean, let me tell you, there's some good acting in there. Uh, it's another show. I tried watching Alba, but honestly, the episodes are too long. They drag out each little detail in the story for like an entire episode instead of just getting on with it. And it ended up that I stopped watching it. I probably could finish it, but I don't know. It's not that it was bad, excuse me, it's just that excuse me, it was too long, too slow. I also started that show with, started the show with Manu Rios, Breathless. I don't remember what it's called in Spanish, but in English it's called Breathless, where they're doctors. Every time I put it on, it takes me 2 or 3 days to finish a 40-minute episode. I just end up turning it off, not paying attention. It's just I have a feeling that it's not a good show because I keep coming back to this. I'm turning it off now. All right. Today is 14 days until the election. In California, yesterday was the last day to register to vote. But now everybody should be receiving their ballots probably within the next week. And as long as your ballot is postmarked by November 5th, 4th, 5th, I don't remember what day it is. I think it's the 5th that we vote on. As long as your ballot, in California, as long as your ballot is postmarked by November 5th, your vote is counted. You also have a way to track your ballot, right? The information is on your ballot. In California, if you're registered to vote, your ballot will automatically come in the mail. It will automatically come in the mail. If you do not want that to happen, the next time that you register to vote in 2026 for the midterm elections, you need to choose to opt out of mail-in so that way you can choose to go in person and vote. There is also an option to print out your ballot and mail it in. You can print out your ballot in California and mail it in. That is totally acceptable. You just have to be registered to vote. Uh, if you're registering and you don't want to be a Democrat or Republican, but you don't want to be an independent, there are other party choices. If you want to be an independent registered voter, do not choose the American Independence Party. You do not want to be affiliated with any party. The American Independence Party is an extremely conservative party, and unless you find yourself aligned with their platform, don't register for them. That's how it should go. Anytime you register, you should register for the party that you should register for the party that aligns with your values the most. If you don't think there's a party that does that, then you should vote independent. The thing about being a registered independent voter in California is that you are not allowed to vote in the primaries, which means you have no say in who goes on to be nominated as the presidential candidates for either party, the Republicans or the Democrats. Personally, I find that should be unconstitutional because if you're a registered voter, you should have a say. But that's not how it works in California, at least. So yeah, make sure you vote. Make sure your ballots are deposited where they're supposed to be deposited by the time they're supposed to be deposited. Okay? Whoever you vote for, just make sure you get out and vote. Vote, vote, vote. The sun is so bright. Sun is in the sky. In Hebrew is Hashem Beshamayim. Hashemesh Beshamayim. Shemesh. Hashemesh Beshamayim. Okay, אני הולך להגיע בבית ספר באוניברסיטה. Excuse me. סליחה, סליחה, סליחה. That's how you say excuse me in Hebrew. After you burp or you fart. Slicha. 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 To drive in Hebrew is nin hog. Nin hog. Car in Hebrew, mechonit. Mechonit. When I said ani lehagia bebait sefer beuniversita, that means I'm going to arrive at school, at university. I, holech, am going to, or I am, ani holech, I am going, lehagia, to arrive, be, at, bait, bait sefer, that it means school, but a direct translation would give you book house. Book house, which I mean is logical, because schools are book houses. Bait sefer. Sefer is book. Sfarim is books. Bait is house or home. Bebait is at home or in the house. Bebait sefer at school. In school. The sun is Hashemesh. Hashemesh. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end this now. Well, I don't know how. So I guess you're stuck with me for another minute or so. טוב, אני פה עכשיו. All right, bye.